Well, hello everyone. This is Denise MacPherson, and I am so excited today because we have a very special guest. Ryan Carr has been someone that I've known for a few years, and I'm just really excited because of what we're going to be able to share with you today. So how about if we bring Ryan on? Hey there, Ryan. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Oh, I know. I'm just loving this. It's kind of funny because we got to know each other because of real estate several years ago. I'm in Ottawa. You're in the Durham region. And for people who don't know the Durham region, what area does that cover?
That would be an hour east of Toronto.
Okay, but it covers what? Oshawa?
Ajax, Pickering, Oshawa, Clarington, Uxbridge. It's a fairly big region.
That's right. So it's fairly big. So about an hour from Toronto. So,
right.
And again, we see each other at meetings out there and stuff like that. Plus, we've had you speak to some of our meetings before also.
I know. That's
been good. Which is kind of neat. Yeah, it's kind of neat. So, you know what? I know that for a lot of people, you're quite well respected in the community, which is absolutely wonderful. But probably some people listening right now are hearing you for the first time. So why don't you just kind of give us a little background of maybe who Ryan Carr is, but when did you start in real estate and what did you do before?
Ooh, who Ryan Carr is. Okay, so 2012, I started investing in real estate. My wife and I bought our very first principal residence. I was working full-time as a mechanic, fixing cars, building armored vehicles. It was a great job. It wasn't as fulfilling to me as what real estate ended up being. And in 2014, I ended up getting laid off from that job. And I got into real estate as the full-time investor that I now am today.
And that's wonderful because I know we've, like I said, known you for many years now, and you've been able to do so much. And so you started off with flips, and where did you go after that?
Yeah, so once I got rolling, I mean, I didn't have any staff. I didn't know a lot about real estate. I just kind of learned myself, type of thing. And I always make the joke, like, I didn't know the cost of a 2x4, and that is the truth. I mean, I really didn't know the cost of a 2x4. So from there, I said, okay, I'm going to learn. I'm gonna take this seriously. I'm gonna do it full time. I jumped into that, did my first couple flips and basement apartments and things like that. And then here we are. I think we're on property 58. We've grown the portfolio. I got lots of rental units now and full-time staff, and the business has just really flourished into what people typically see on social media and things of this nature.
I know that's been absolutely wonderful. And like I said, I've seen the progression too over the years because we've been talking, for a few years too. And I think a lot of us, as we go through the years, that's what happens. Our knowledge increases and we're able to do more and more all the time, which takes us to where you are even today, because now you've put a lot of that knowledge now in a book.
I have.
And this book is called?
This is the Highest and Best Use Playbook, and it's something that I've always wanted to do a book. I know a lot of people, because we're in the same circles, a lot of people have done books and they've had really great success with it. And I've always wanted to do a book for myself, and it was just a way for me to get some of the creative stuff in my mind out onto some paper, and hopefully others can benefit from it as well.
Okay, so I love the title because it's the Highest and Best Used Playbook, which is great, which means there's a lot of actionable items in there. And then you've got finding the unfair advantage over your real estate competition. And I guess this is, to me, is where the exciting part is how can you gain that advantage over other people? So I noticed that when we've talked even a little bit before, is that you've kind of split the book in almost like three, I don't know if it's called three sections, but you cover like three different areas of highest and best use. And when people think of highest and best use, they think more like, okay, I'm getting an appraisal, and the appraisal, the appraiser is going to use sort of the highest and best use to give me an idea of what it can be. But it's so much more than that.
It is. It goes deeper. So I've broken down the book into three sections, as you say. We're talking about the highest and best use of the land, the structure, and then people's own skill sets and time. Right. And when you look at all three of these things, that's how I've been able to look at all of my 58 properties in the past and say, okay, what's the most profitable, productive, or efficient way to get some of these things done? Right. And that's the way that I'm looking at highest and best use. So for me, if we just use land as an example, zoning would obviously be the big ticket for land. What can you put on that dirt? If it's a single family home, the land might be worth X. If it's a 50-story condo, well, the land might be worth something completely different. So for me, I'm always looking at, okay, what can we put on top of that dirt? And then I take it from there.
And I guess this is what happens too, is that very much when people start, they look at a property and they look at the building on it and they just think, okay, what renovations can I bring?
Yeah.
And I think we all started there at the beginning.
We did.
Because I even remember one of the properties we saw very, very early on, brand new in real estate. It was run as a bed and breakfast at the time. And I kept looking at it and I'm going, but I don't want a bed and breakfast. And I guess my knowledge was not great enough at that time to kind of know all of the uses that could be done. And I was kind of stuck, and I've used that property as, call it a springboard, that I thought I'll never put myself in that situation again. I need to know more so I can learn what else I could do. Because to find out, that particular property had been a duplex before and had been converted into an Airbnb. Yeah. It also was near government offices and had 15 parking spots being rented on a monthly basis. I mean, that alone would have covered it. Like I said, but when you're brand new and you think, a lot of people start either with flips or some people start with buy, rent, and hold, and that's all they know at that time.
It's true.
So it's gaining that knowledge to be able to do more. Like I know for you and I, when we started talking to each other, one of the things that you were doing initially was doing now the secondary dwelling units. So when the government came in and allowed that, and I remember you talking to our breakfast meeting about that, because, you know, when people look at one property and you just see a roof, there's so much more now that you can do, right?
Yeah, it's
like
true.
Even when you did the secondary dwelling units, you came up with a new technique of doing those called the vertical splits.
That's
and again, what are vertical splits for people that are not aware of that?
Yeah, it was a way for me to cut up what were traditionally basement apartments. I call them the gold standard because they kind of are, right? It was a way for me to cut up bungalows and two-story homes rather than doing, you know, you get your main floor up above and your basement down below. I was cutting them up like townhouses, right? And I called it the vertical split because rather than split, I was cutting them up and down, right? And each tenant would have two sets of staircases and they'd live on like the main floor plus the basement kind of thing. And it would feel like a full house. And for me, that's how I was driving rents. And I remember at that time, I'd sold a property to an investor who said, I'll pay you more. You know, long story short, I'll pay you more for that property because the property cash flows an extra couple $100 a month. So for me, you know, this was before commercial financing became a big ticket for a lot of investors where, you know, they're qualifying it based on cash flow and debt service rather than personal income, right? And this investor said, well, if you're cash flowing, I forget what the number was, it's typically $200 to $400 a month higher. Let's just say $300 a month. If you're cash flowing $300 a month more than the neighbor, well, then I could maybe pay you 20, 30, 40,000 in resale price because the debt service ended up falling in line. I was like, oh my God, this really makes a lot of sense to me. How can I blow this up? And how can I take this over all kinds of different deals and all kinds of different opportunities?
And I guess you've, I saw a video of you just recently with Mark Loeffler, I guess, where you were discussing a particular property that you were doing. And again, looking at the highest and best use, that you were going to be doing something totally different with this property again, right? So give us some of the examples of some of the stuff that you've been able to do when you're looking at that piece of dirt and what you've been able to do with it.
Yeah, it all starts from the dirt. So zoning is big. I'm real big on minor variances. I think that a lot of zoning bylaws are outdated, you know, right now. And we look at things like Bill 108 coming through with, you know, the Ontario provincial mandate for, we'll call it triplexes, but for accessory dwelling units, like detached garages with living structures inside and things like that. So, you know, what used to be only 2 units is now 3 units. And for a lot of people, that completely changes the pro forma because now you're adding a unit to the backyard that never previously existed. So that's a prime example. But I mean, in terms of my triplexes and things like that, I mean, adding a 3rd unit to a property will be, that'll be the next big ticket, like basement apartments were 10 years ago, you know, and as we see these property values creep up, that's huge. But minor variances are good. Rezoning is good. Highest and best use of the dirt, starting there, using the zoning bylaw to your advantage. Sometimes there's things inside those zoning bylaws that people don't even know about. So, I mean, really researching and understanding your zoning is the best place for me to start and the best place that I always recommend others to start. Just learn your town. You know, Ottawa and the periphery markets is such a hot market. They want rental. There is demand there. Here in Durham, same thing. They want rental. There is demand here. In both of our markets, our asset prices are similar, I believe. But I mean, the property values are just increasing. Like there's a running away right now. So how do you bring that debt service back in line? These are some of the ways to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Because like you say, it's a very much a hot market right now. And even the new investors are looking at a property and say, well, I can't make a cash flow. Yes, but is there something else you could do with that property that would allow you to be able to cash flow it?
That's right. I mean, you had mentioned renting parking, being close to government offices. That's huge. Renting parking
Yes.
is massive. Somebody, when I was early in my investing career, somebody had mentioned to me, what about signage? You know, they were looking at I think in this case, it was a rental for their office. They were looking for an office. And they said, well, you know, we're looking to rent an office in a downtown location in Durham, right, in like a small city center. And it was on the main drag. And I said, well, how much is your rent? And, you know, I'm working out the math. And they said, oh, but you're missing something. And I said, what am I missing? And he said to me, well, how many people drive past here on a daily basis? I said, I don't know, thousands. Why? He goes, yeah, what do you think it would cost to rent a sign at the 4 major corners of this intersection? I said, well, I don't know, maybe $1,500 a month or 10 grand. I don't know, pick a number. And he goes, yeah, and what do you think my rent is? I said, well, it's probably in around there. He goes, that's right. So I'm really getting the unit for free, and I get the billboard out front to tell everybody that I'm open for business. I went, oh my God, this is amazing, right? So it's all about the creative aspect on how you're looking at these deals.
Yeah. And the thing is getting around other investors that are actually doing stuff like that, gaining the education, doing your research, because if you sit there, it's not osmosis. It's not just going to dump on you so that, you know, you like all of a sudden you'll know how to do this. Is make sure that you get that education. Now, for you, I think you were a lot of it. I know that you've had coaches. We've had similar coaches, you and I. But I think a lot of it, you were self-taught when you first started, right?
A lot of it I was. And I'm kind of proud of that, really. You know, this was before the YouTube game was really big, and this was before Instagram and Facebook and social media and all this stuff. All these coaches were out there teaching real estate.
Right.
You know, and I learned what I could. I read some books. I think some of the Rich Dad courses were a thing at that time, but I had no idea what that was. I didn't know what RAIN was. And they were huge, you know, and I just didn't know it. I was in my own little bubble, and I just taught myself a lot of what I know today. And then I took that and I built on it. And then you start asking the right questions. And when you get into the right networks, you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. And when you get the right answers, you can do the best deals.
And it just grows from there. And just like probably what we've done, you learn a strategy, learn it well, then learn another strategy and add to it, learn another strategy, but never try to do everything all at once because it won't work.
That's right.
So perfect a strategy before you go on to the next one. But I like some of the stuff like you're going to be covering in your book, because as you said, 3 things. You're going to be highest and best use of land, highest and best use of structure, and about your own skill sets and time also. So, I mean, best use of land, yes, like you mentioned, you know, look into zoning, look into, you know, those types of stuff. And I'm sure, like we've got here Geo Ottawa, which is a website that you can see all the zoning and everything else. And I'm sure just about every city has something like that you can learn and get information on that. But you should always check the zoning. The zoning is so important. Like we've been able to buy properties that the zoning is already there for this little tiny bungalow that is in there. And the use of it is going to be fantastic with some of the projects that we have in play. And I'm sure that's probably the first thing you look for too, right? Is the zoning.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you know what, appraisers, this is like a hidden dirty secret, is that appraisers don't necessarily look at the zoning. They don't care. They see what they see, right? They've got their blinders on like a horse race. They see single family home on an infill lot and it's worth, you know, $679 after repair value or as is, whatever, right? They don't look at the zoning. They'll look at it just for information's sake, but they don't care what the highest and best use is because they appraise based on what it is today.
That's right.
And I think, you know, even when people are looking at buildings, we'll say multifamily for a minute. You know, I bought a building a couple of years ago. It was a 14-plex. And based on cap rate, I probably overpaid for the building. But based on when the property was done, that building was a smashing deal. On the way, like, oh my God. You know, and I think people are really fixated on what it is, which is how appraisers look. But if you can get past that and you can see down the road, okay, what can it be? If you have that vision, that's what makes you a good investor.
Yeah, I know that we've been able to pick up a property that we actually paid for a consultant to see what was going to be the highest and best use for it.
There you go.
And they've already told us we'll be able to do 12 units on that lot.
Awesome.
And right now it's a regular bungalow, right? So it's again of knowing where to find the information, you know, just putting it into play, but looking ahead. That's what you want to do, is look ahead. Like it's not going to happen like tomorrow.
No, it's amazing that you can foresee that. I mean, 12 units on what's currently a single family home.
Mhm.
I mean, that single family home, you're going to be paying residential prices for that. I'm assuming it's an infill lot,
Yeah.
right? You're going to pay residential prices. All of a sudden, instead of like single family, duplex, maybe a third unit, depending on how the zoning goes, now you're putting 12 units on the same cost of that dirt.
And the funny thing is, the zoning was already there to be able to do it.
Oh, that's a no-brainer, which means you're going to get a development credit for the house, right? I would think. And then you're going to get some kind of a servicing credit, possibly for the services, maybe, right? I don't know the specifics, but like all of those things really matter. And when you can do all of this intensification, like 12 units on the backs of something so small and simple, I mean, you're going to win. Good for you.
Yeah. So have you done a lot of let's knock it down and let's rebuild again? Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. I just finished a duplex last year, a couple semis last year. This year, I think I've got four or five triplexes to build. I've got 30 units of new construction coming up in the next 24 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
And again, applying that strategy of highest and best use.
Yeah.
And, being able to see what can you do with it. Now, I know we talk about land, we talk about structure, because depending what you can build on it, let's talk just a little bit about your best use of your time and your skill set.
What do you do when you wake up in the morning? What part of the business are you active in? I ask myself this question all the time, What am I focusing on? So I know that if I spend a day working in the business, so like, let's say I get sick of the office stuff and I'm like, I want to go work with my hands. I want to hang some crown molding, or I want to do some modding and drywall, whatever.
Plus you have been good with your hands.
I am good with my hands. I am. I like it, right?
Yeah.
If I do that, I know that sets me back in the business by at least 3 days, because all those phone calls that I didn't think were going to come in, they came in, right? And all of those things that I didn't think I had to do that day, all of a sudden they become very important, right? And that one day of like working on site, it throws me way off. And I remember this was about, I'm going to say 5 years ago, earlier on in my investing career. There was a tax sale that came up. And I tell this story from time to time. Stop me if you've heard it. But there's a tax sale that came up, and tax sales are pretty rare. And I heard about this thing. And, I knew that there was going to be an opportunity with this particular property because I had read through and kind of done some of the quick math on it. And I said to myself, okay, tax sale day is on, February 3rd or whatever the day was. So I said on February 3rd, I'm going to go down there with a check. And I learned a little bit about tax sales, and I'm going to give them my deposit, and I want to buy that tax sale house. Well, that day came along, and I got too busy working with the plumber and working with some other stuff on site that I didn't get a chance to go and get my bid. And I thought, oh, well, whatever. Well, that house sold for $100,000 under asking price. $100,000. And I said to myself, was whatever I was doing today worth more than $100,000? And the answer was absolutely not. This is ridiculous. I'm never doing this again. Right? Always focused on the highest and best use of your time. That for me, I'll never forget that story, because who doesn't want to make $100,000? I want to make $100,000. You know how many people you could employ with that, or how many vacations you could go on, or how many, I don't know, if you're into cars or toys or whatever, how much you could do with that $100,000. So for me, as a business owner now, not just a real estate investor, but as an entrepreneur, I said to myself, okay, reality check, bud, smarten up. You got to really pay attention as to what's going on here. And if you're going to miss out on opportunities for 100, it better be to go make an opportunity for 200. And that's how I see it now.
I know. And I guess so many people start their day and they don't even know what they're going to do that day.
Yeah.
Just, whatever comes or around that day. But you've got to be able to plan that time. And what you can delegate.
It's true.
So that you focus on what is going to be your biggest ROI, I guess, is bottom line. But exactly. I bet you that lesson that you learned there, you'll never do that again.
I will not. That really upset me. I think about it all the time.
I know. And I have that property, like I said, very early on in our career, that just stays right here. And I think of it every time I look at a property, and I thought, I need to know what I can do with this property. What is the highest and best use? Absolutely. Yeah. And you need to know a lot of stuff. Keep increasing that knowledge to be able to make those best decisions for what it is that you need to do. Because those are key things to do. So we all have, I think, that one project we said, I lost a lot there, and I don't want that happening again. I don't begrudge. I mean, well, you do a little bit, but the thing is, you learn that, what's done is done. You can't look back, but I use it, like I said, for me as a springboard for what it needs to do. And I'm sure when you go in there, you probably look at, okay, what can I do with the property? But if I plan on exiting, what are my exit strategies too? Because that is also a highest and best use of all the various things you can do with a property.
It's true. It's true. So, I mean, exit strategy is so important because right now with the price of the assets, like we were talking about before, I mean, the asset price is so high right now that a lot of people can't qualify for these mortgages. So, I mean, I remember the first house I ever bought was $261,000. That same house just sold for like 600 or 700 grand. And it's only been a 5 to 7 year swing. So, I mean, if you look at that, have incomes risen the same amount? The answer is no. Have rents risen the same amount? The answer is no, right? But have asset prices completely inflated? The answer is yes. So, I mean, you gotta take a step back, and I'm doing this actively in my business now, where I'm like, okay, on the way into a deal, if I'm going to build this thing, or if I'm going to buy this thing, do I have to flip it, or do I have to refinance commercially, or do I have to bring in a JV partner, or do I have to not do any work at all and sell it as is as a wholesale because my infrastructure is or isn't there to support this? Like, there's so many different layers that I think new coming investors miss. And not that they should know all the answers, but they should have a rough idea. Listening to shows like yours, I mean, this is great. How can you ever expect to get 30 minutes or an hour of somebody's time, not even just mine, but all of the guests that you have, to get all of the content that we're able to share here? It's really amazing, actually.
I mean, these are really golden nuggets for the people that are listening to this.
Sure.
Because there's just so much out there, but you need to get access to them. That's the bottom line.
You do. COVID, you know what? I've been saying this for a long time. As bad as COVID is with all the people that are sick and dying and all this stuff, there's a lot of opportunity out there for those who are willing to reach out and take it. And
that's true.
Like, a prime example, people are crying the blues like that they can't go to meetups. And like, yeah, okay, it sucks. You can't see your friends, you can't see other investors, fine. But like, look at all the shows that have been forced online.
Yeah.
Because COVID happened, and people say, well, I still need an outlet. I'm writing a book because I was stuck at home, and I'm like, you know what, I can't see as many people, so I'm going to put it in a book. That book and that IP will live forever, just like the show will live forever on Facebook and YouTube or wherever it gets posted. But I mean, like all of these things are benefits. So you can say like COVID's a negative, but I don't know, asset prices have like gone up 20-30% this year. Is it really a negative? Like, what's your view? So I'm a big proponent to saying, okay, is the glass half full or is the glass half empty?
Well, if you recall, when we had invited you in, like at our breakfast meeting, we were in the back room in a restaurant. We had a big screen TV, so you're zooming in or Skyping in, which is what we were doing with guests back then. Yeah. We were just physically meeting at the restaurant, so it was very Ottawa-centric because we'd physically meet. As soon as COVID hit, we had a breakfast meeting on that Saturday, and I thought, oh, well, still have the same guests. They're still zooming in, so let's just do it online. So we just continued. So yes, we brought our networking online, and we do that, every fourth Monday of the month. We had like a live networking, but it's just, you're right. COVID has allowed us to do a whole lot of things that wasn't there before, and you get to know people more. But I like the fact, like you said, you got access. You've got that website also of yours, thehighestandbestuse.com. People can go and find out, because I guess you have a wait list right now. Are you going to share with us when the book is released?
Spring market 2021. So we're still putting the final touches on it. The wait list is up. People can sign up. You don't have to pay or anything yet. Just throw your name on the list, and when the book is ready for print, it's going to come out. You're going to get a notice. Yeah,
no, that's great. I've been on the wait list. I guess when it first kind of popped out, I got on the wait list because I look forward to seeing it. So I know that I respect your time because we told you this was just going to be sort of over your lunch. But do you have some tips, like some few extra tips that you'd like to give people right now before we kind of sign off?
One major quote that I always like to leave people with is, when you're evaluating deals, what is the upside potential and what is the downside risk, right? That's I don't know if you guys can see, but all around my wall, I got all kinds of posters and stuff like that. And one of the posters that I look at on a Monday in particular, every Monday, but on a daily basis, is that one. And I feel that is one of the most influential posters that's really affected my career, because I'm always looking at not even just highest and best use, but like, okay, if my upside is really, really good and my downside is really, really low, the odds are in my favor. I'll push, right? But if the upside is low and the downside is huge, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. I'll generally shy away from that deal. And sometimes the best deal is no deal at all. And that's the truth.
That is so true.
Yeah.
That has saved us major. And actually, I had a lawyer tell me that at one point, because we were working on a deal and everything else, and the deal didn't work. And I still remember his words. Sometimes the best deal you can do is the one that you don't do.
Oof.
because it would have cost me major had I gone ahead with the deal.
Yeah.
And that is so, so true. And that is a big golden nugget there. Just because the property is up for sale and it looks so pretty. And when I hear investors tell me that, oh, this would be such a great property, look at it, it's so nice. And I thought, that has nothing to do with it. Really. You can make the property nice, renovate it if you want.
That's right. There was a quote by Nathan Rothschild. He said, never buy at the bottom and always sell too soon. And I thought, oh my God, like these guys, like mega money bankers, think like these guys. They're brilliant. You're a lawyer, brilliant.
Oh, think like a bank. That is so true. So, so true. The money mindset, the investor mindset has to be really strong, but it's something you develop.
It's true.
No, like you're not always born with it. Maybe you were.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm, you know what? I'm a regular guy, just like anybody else. And I think that like a lot of people look at some of the things that are being posted on social media. They see YouTube pre-roll and they see Instagram ads and all this stuff. And, sometimes it's not real. And I think there's a real disconnect in the market that people need to understand that like, hey, it's great to go out and like do all these wonderful things, but not everything is the way that it appears, and I try to be extremely factual when I come on shows like this. And when I post things on social media, like I try to be really factual with people and say, look, like sometimes things aren't so great. That's the truth. And sometimes things are amazing. And, it's disheartening for a lot of people who can't separate that.
Yeah. It's the old adage, right? If it was that easy, everybody'd be doing it.
It's true.
There are ups and downs. There's no ifs or buts about it. There are ups and downs to real estate, but hopefully the ups make up for what are the downs down here. And they usually do. But some of them get scared and run away, period. And that's okay. That leaves more for the rest of us, right?
It's true. That's true.
But again, folks, make sure that you tune in and go to Ryan's website, to thehighestandbestuse.com. Make sure that you actually get on his wait list for his books, because again, he's going to talk about the highest and best use of land, the highest and best use of structure, and the highest and best use of your skill set and time. So again, and I think you're going to break it down in so many examples also under all of those subsets that we didn't want to give it all away. They want them to read the book and get all of that, right?
You got it. You got it. Each chapter is going to have, a different technique. I'm going to teach a technique. I'm going to tell a story, and then I'll summarize it at the end of that chapter. So you can, whichever way you learn best, you can pick it from there.
Oh, that's fantastic. I thank you so much, Ryan, for taking time out of your workday, basically. And I know we decided to do this over lunch so that it was a little easier within your time schedule, but I so appreciate you coming on. And I think that a lot of the listeners right now going to get your book, I mean, they're going to find out about hidden opportunities that I guess maybe they never thought were possible, right?
I hope they do.
They're going to see maybe how to increase their ROI on their properties.
Yeah.
And also just growing the real estate portfolio, which everybody looks for.
It's true.
Anyways, thank you so much again, Ryan. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
And folks, that's it for today. Make sure that you go on the website, thehighestandbestuse.com, and pre-order or get on the wait list, I should say, for Ryan's book. So when it actually comes out this spring. So anyways, hope you got lots of golden nuggets from that. So we'll see you again, folks. This was